Ja, herzlich willkommen Ihnen allen in der Allianz Arena. Der FC Bayern freut sich, einen weiteren neuen Spieler vorstellen zu dürfen. Philippe Coutinho ist unser Neuzugang und wird sich heute Ihnen vorstellen, ein bisschen zu Wort melden. Da freuen wir uns natürlich sehr. Philippe kennt jeder Fußballfreund auf der Welt. Bevor wir einsteigen und dann auch mit Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, dem Vorstandsvorsitzenden, und Hasan Salihamidzic, dem Sportdirektor, sprechen, ein paar Sequenzen von unserem Neuzugang, der jetzt in München angekommen ist.
Servus.
Servus in München.
Servus.
Is it Felipe or Filippo?
Felipe.
Felipe, okay. How are you? What's your first impression in the club?
I'm good. I'm really impressed, you know. I've been to the club this morning, and all the things there are impressive, and I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Herr Rummenigge, wie hat sich der Transfer aus Ihrer Sicht so dargestellt in den letzten Tagen?
Ja, wir haben ja eigentlich seit einiger Zeit uns mit Philippe schon befasst, weil wir wollten ja für unsere Offensive noch was an Potenzial hinzufügen, und Hasan und ich, speziell Hasan, hat natürlich in der Vorbereitung ein paar Dinge schon vorbereitet. Wir sind dann eben am Mittwoch gemeinsam nach Barcelona geflogen und haben Philippe, seine Frau, seinen Berater und seine zwei Berater getroffen und seine zwei Brüder auch, die dabei waren, und sind am Ende des Tages dann eben glücklicherweise zu einer Vereinbarung gekommen, dass Philippe zum FC Bayern transferiert wird. Wir sind sehr glücklich darüber. Ich darf mich beim FC Barcelona für die freundschaftliche Zusammenarbeit bedanken. Ich darf mich auch bei Philippe, seiner Frau und seinen Beratern bedanken. Ich glaube, das war eine gute Zusammenarbeit, und wir sind sehr glücklich, dass wir jetzt diesen Transfer hier zum FC Bayern bewerkstelligen konnten, weil ich glaube, mit Philippe kriegen wir einen Spieler, der für seine exzellente Technik, aber eben auch für seinen Offensivgeist bekannt ist, und ich bin überzeugt, dass wir damit nochmal eben ein Stück mehr Qualität speziell für die Offensive für unsere Mannschaft herkriegen.
Dankeschön. Hasan, also welche sportliche Bereicherung stellt er über die Worte von Herrn Rummenigge hinaus noch konkret dar?
Ja, erstmal bin ich sehr glücklich, dass wir so einen Spieler unseren Fans präsentieren können. Natürlich freut sich jeder von uns, auch von den Spielern freuen sich alle, dass Philippe zu uns stoßen wird. Philippe ist ein Spieler, der sehr flexibel ist in der Offensive, der kann von der linken Seite kommen, kann im zentralen Mittelfeld spielen, kann der zentrale Punkt auch in unserem Spiel sein, zusammen natürlich mit den Jungs, die das jetzt sehr gut gemacht haben in der Vergangenheit. Aber ich glaube, dass Philippe uns ein Stück, ja, er wird unsere Mannschaft verstärken, aber er wird auch diese Note, die spektakuläre Note unserem Spiel geben, und darauf freuen wir uns alle. Ich glaube, der Transfer war ganz wichtig. Das war Teamwork, was wir gemacht haben. Ich glaube, es ist wichtig auch zu erwähnen, dass wir uns immer uns zu bedanken bei dem Aufsichtsrat. Wir haben uns immer sehr gut abgesprochen mit Uli Hoeneß, und Karl-Heinz Rummenigge hat seine Kontakte zu Barcelona klar genutzt. Ich habe immer sehr guten Kontakt zu dem Berater von Philippe gehabt, zum Kia. Da möchte ich mich auch bedanken, weil die Gespräche waren immer sehr professionell. Und wir sind nach Barcelona gefahren und haben dem Philippe ein sportliches Projekt vorgezeigt, was er sofort angenommen hat und das hat mich sehr gefreut. Deswegen nochmal bin ich sehr glücklich, dass der Philippe Spieler des FC Bayern ist.
Hassan, ohne dem Trainer vorzugreifen, ist er schon bereit einzugreifen? Das interessiert die Fans natürlich.
Ja, er hat gestern einen Medizincheck überstanden. Heute hat er auch einen Konditionscheck gehabt. Dr. Müller-Wohlfahrt hat gestern gesagt, dass er topfit ist, dass alles stimmt. Natürlich will der Trainer jetzt das letzte Wort geben, aber so wie ich den Philippe wahrgenommen habe, freut er sich und ihm brennt es natürlich, endlich auf den Platz zu gehen und zeigen, was er kann. Ich freue mich auch, muss ich sagen, auf das erste Training, weil, ja, wie ich schon gesagt habe, das wird schon spektakulär und ja, das ist schon ein Transfer, was dem FC Bayern gut zu Gesicht steht.
Klingt wunderbar. Herr Rummenigge, der Transfermarkt ist zuletzt ja von außen etwas kritisch beäugt worden. Wie schätzen Sie die Situation ein?
Naja, es gibt einen Transfermarkt, der ja bis zum 2. September auf ist. Mal gab es natürlich auch beim FC Bayern schon Jahre, wo wir schon nach ein paar Wochen den Transfermarkt schließen konnten. Gab es auch schon. Es gab auch Transfer, daran möchte ich erinnern, die sehr spät gekommen sind. Ich möchte hier nur vielleicht stellvertretend unsere beiden spanischen Spieler, die wir geholt haben, Javi Martinez oder Xabi Alonso, die so etwa 2, 3 Tage vor Transfermarkt-Toreschluss noch zum FC Bayern gekommen sind. Ich muss sagen, ich glaube, wir alle beim FC Bayern sind total zufrieden mit dem Transfermarkt und ich möchte vielleicht auch mal erklären, was wir da in dieser Transferperiode bewerkstelligt haben. Wir haben 2 Weltmeister aus Frankreich dazu bekommen, 2 Abwehrspieler. Wir haben einen Vize-Weltmeister mit Ivan Perisic vor einer Woche zum FC Bayern transferiert. Wir haben einen frisch gebackenen Sieger der Copa America, Philippe, zum FC Bayern gebracht und dazu eben noch 2 talentierte junge Spieler. Ich glaube, vom Mix her ist das alles gut. Wir sind total zufrieden und wir sind überzeugt, dass wir mit dem Kader, den wir jetzt damit auch stehen haben, dass wir mit diesem Kader eine erfolgreiche, gute Saison spielen werden. Und ich bin sicher, dass unsere Fans Spaß an der Mannschaft haben werden. Insbesondere dafür bin ich jetzt nach dem Transfer von Philippe sehr überzeugt, speziell mit der Offensive. Das ist natürlich noch das, was wir unbedingt machen wollten, eben für die Offensive einen absoluten Topspieler zum FC Bayern zu holen. Und ich glaube, darüber sind sich alle einig. Das ist mit Philippe Coutinho, glaube ich, auch gelungen.
Dankeschön, meine Herren. Dann kommen wir zu Ihren Fragen. Philippe wird in seiner Muttersprache Portugiesisch antworten. Also bitte unseren Übersetzungsdienst in Anspruch nehmen und dann wie immer Handzeichen und aufs Mikrofon warten. Ich glaube, der Uli Köhler war der Erste oben. Ja? Warte das Mikro.
Ich will gleich anschließen, was Hassan gesagt hat. Sie haben heute früh schon trainiert. Sie waren bei der Copa, haben die ganze Vorbereitung von Barcelona nicht mitmachen können. Sind Sie schon fit, am Freitag spielen zu können, am Samstag gegen Schalke spielen zu können?
Bom, hoje realizamos alguns testes, né? Ontem também exames médicos. Mas eu já vinha treinando no Barcelona, como a gente falou aqui, já tinha feito algumas sessões lá e, bom, no que cabe a mim, é claro que eu quero me preparar ao máximo para o quanto antes estar apto para jogar. E eu posso dizer também que eu estou muito ansioso para chegar amanhã, que é o momento onde eu encontro os novos companheiros, o treinador e o meu primeiro treinamento com o grupo.
Hat jemand das nächste Mikrofon? Ist jetzt ein bisschen untergegangen. Nächste Frage. Hier vorne Julian Wolf, bitte. Und dann Taufik Kadil. Immer gleich ein bisschen melden, dann können wir zügiger machen. Danke.
Ja, eine Frage an Philippe, danach eine an Herrn Rummenigge. Philippe, willkommen in München. Ich weiß jetzt noch nicht, wie der Trainer dich sieht von der genauen Position, aber so wie ich sehe, könnte dein Konkurrent intern sozusagen Thomas Müller sein. Denkst du, es kann da sozusagen nur eingeben oder kannst du auch mit Thomas zusammenspielen? Ist das denkbar für dich in der Startelf? Und an Herrn Rummenigge, die Leihgebühr 8,5 Millionen, klingt jetzt im Verhältnis vom Transfermarkt ziemlich wenig. Wie ist das zu erklären? War das dann einfach Verhandlungsgeschick oder warum hat man so einen Spieler, gerade wenn man an die Ablöse damals von Liverpool zu Barcelona denkt, so recht günstig dann kriegen können?
Primeiramente, obrigado. Então, sobre o posicionamento, é claro que depende do que o treinador pensa, né? Eu vou com certeza trabalhar, fazer o meu melhor para poder sempre estar apto a jogar. Claro que na última competição atuei mais de número 10, mas é claro que eu estou à disposição do treinador. E sobre uma disputa de posição, é claro que o Müller é um grande jogador, um grande ídolo aqui para o país e para o futebol mundial, e eu posso dizer que estou muito feliz que vou tê-lo como companheiro junto com os outros grandes nomes que tem na equipe.
Ja, wenn ich was zu der Ausleihe sagen darf, also erstmal sind wir glücklich, dass wir mit Barcelona wirklich in sehr freundschaftlicher und harmonischer Art und Weise eben, sag ich mal, diesen Transfer bewerkstelligen konnten. 8,5 Millionen ist natürlich, ich würde mal sagen, auch irgendwo ein Freundschaftspreis. Uli Hoeneß und ich kennen die Leute von Barcelona seit langer Zeit und ich glaube, es gibt wenige Clubs, mit denen wir so ein gutes Verhältnis haben. Ich glaube auch, dass Barcelona diesen Transfer von Philippe, der ja unbedingt auch zum FC Bayern wollte, nicht verhindern wollte und dementsprechend hat man sich glücklicherweise auf einen Betrag einigen können, der sicherlich auch aus Sicht von Bayern München sehr günstig erscheint.
Dann hier in der Mitte, Tawfik Khalil, gib ein kurzes Handzeichen.
Ja. Hallo Philippe, willkommen in München, Tawfik Khalil vom Bayerischen Rundfunk. Sie sind vor 1,5 Jahren von Liverpool nach Barcelona gewechselt für viel Geld, große Erwartungshaltung. Jetzt kommen Sie nach München. Was hat nicht funktioniert? Warum jetzt der Wechsel und warum nach München? Was ist reizvoll an München für Sie?
Olha, foi realmente, um ano e meio atrás tive a mudança da Inglaterra para a Espanha, e foram um ano e meio assim bons no meu modo de ver, onde aprendi bastante, tive a oportunidade de ganhar 4 títulos com o clube. Depois teve a Copa América, a gente foi campeão também no nosso país, que é um título muito importante para a gente. E agora estou tendo essa oportunidade de vir para um grande clube, que é o Bayern, né? E não tive nenhuma dúvida quando o Hassan ligou bastante para o Kia, demonstrou todo o interesse que eles tinham. Eles foram a Barcelona, a gente encontrou, nos apresentaram o projeto e o Romaniga também estava junto. Então eu gostaria também aqui de agradecer aos dois, porque desde o primeiro momento eles apresentaram todo o projeto, depositaram toda a confiança sobre o meu trabalho, e isso foi muito importante. E também agradeço ao presidente Julianes, porque fizeram todo o esforço necessário para que eu estivesse aqui, e hoje para mim é um dia muito feliz.
Dann hier links bitte, Heiko Niederer, kurzes Handzeichen.
Hallo Philippe. Es hieß immer, als du gewechselt bist von Liverpool nach Barcelona, es ginge vor allem darum, die Champions League zu gewinnen. Das hat jetzt nicht geklappt. Bei Bayern gibt es auch eine große Obsession, diese Champions League zu gewinnen. Das werden, glaube ich, die Herren neben dir bestätigen. Wie siehst du die Chancen jetzt mit dieser Mannschaft, die Königsklasse zu gewinnen?
Com certeza, aqui no Bayern, como pela grandeza do clube, pela história do clube, é um clube que em cada competição tem a responsabilidade e as expectativas de conquistar os grandes títulos na temporada. E óbvio que a Champions é um deles, né? Então, com certeza eu venho para trabalhar, dar meu máximo, aprender com os companheiros, com a comissão, e fazer o meu melhor para junto com meus companheiros, conseguir buscar os títulos importantes, que são a Bundesliga, a Copa e com certeza a Champions.
Oben rechts Thomas Klinger, letzte Reihe.
Hallo Philipp, hier 2 Sachen. Zum einen ist es klar, du spielst immer da, wo der Trainer dich hinstellt, aber wo spielst du am liebsten? Wo kommen deine Fähigkeiten deiner Meinung nach am besten zum Tragen? Und das Zweite, du hast ebenso schön von Vertrauen gesprochen, das dir der Verein hier gegeben hat. Hängt das Vertrauen auch vielleicht damit zusammen, dass zum Beispiel Klopp in Liverpool es geschafft hat, dir viel Vertrauen zu geben und in Barcelona irgendwie nicht so? Also wie wichtig ist für dich Vertrauen vom Trainer, Vertrauen von der Mannschaft, Vertrauen von der Führung?
Sobre a primeira pergunta, né, sobre posicionamento, como eu falei, quem decide sempre é o treinador, eu tenho que estar sempre preparado, mas é claro, a posição que eu me sinto confortável para fazer o meu melhor é sempre a posição de número 10, que fica livre para movimentar e óbvio, mas como eu falei, o principal é o que o treinador decide. E sobre a confiança depositada, com certeza para mim foi um ponto muito importante. E sobre o Barcelona, as coisas que não aconteceram como a gente queria, para mim agora ficou para trás. Eu estou aqui num novo desafio, num novo grande clube e espero poder ficar por muito tempo aqui e conquistar bastante coisa.
Dann in der Mitte Florian Plettenberg.
Servus Philipp, ich hätte eine Frage an Herrn Salihamidzic und eine an Herrn Rummenigge. Herr Salihamidzic, Sie sprachen davon, dass Sie dem Spieler ein sportliches Projekt aufgezeigt haben. Der Spieler sprach von den Projekten auch. Können Sie das nochmal erklären, was man dem Spieler aufgezeigt hat? Ist es der Kader, sind es die Titel, die man gewinnen möchte? Und eine Frage an Herrn Rummenigge. Wir sprachen ja vor einigen Wochen auch über die Systemfrage. Jetzt sagt Philippe, er möchte gerne auf der 10 spielen. Im 4-3-3 gibt es die Position nicht so richtig. Was stimmt Sie optimistisch, dass man Philippe so einsetzen kann, dass er seine Stärken am besten bringen kann? Danke.
Ja, ich glaube erstmal, das, was Hassan Philippe am Mittwoch vorgestellt hat, ist ja mit dem Trainer abgestimmt gewesen. Also gehen Sie davon aus, dass diese ganzen taktischen Varianten und die Position, die für Philippe eben vorgesehen ist, mit Nico, zwischen Nico und Hassan eben ganz einfach im Einklang und Harmonie im Vorfeld, wie gesagt, abgestimmt wurden. Ich kann nur eins sagen, Hassan hatte heute Morgen noch mit Arjen Robben ein Gespräch. Wir hatten ja ursprünglich vor, die Nummer 10 und die Nummer 7 in diesem Jahr nicht zu vergeben, als einfach, nennen wir es mal, Geste gegenüber unseren 2 großen Spielern, Arjen Robben und Frank Ribéry. Wir wollten aber ganz zielbewusst mit dem Transfer von Philippe jetzt auch ihm, aber auch unseren Fans zeigen, welche Bedeutung, welche Wertigkeit dieser Transfer hat, und dementsprechend werden wir ihm die Nummer 10 geben, und das hat Hassan ihm auch am Mittwoch mitgeteilt. Hassan hat ein Trikot anfertigen lassen von Bayern München mit der Nummer 10 und Coutinho hinten drauf, und ich glaube, das war auch ein sehr wichtiges Zeichen für Philipp, dass eben der Club voll auf ihn setzt, voll hinter dem ganzen Transfer steht und dementsprechend auch diesen Transfer unbedingt machen will. Und Hassan hat, wie gesagt, mit Arjen heute Morgen noch Kontakt gehabt. Arjen hat damit überhaupt kein Problem. Er wünscht Philippe alles Gute. Er ist ein mehr als würdiger Nachfolger dieses Trikots mit der Nummer 10.
Ja, obendrauf, das Projekt, was wir vorgestellt haben, war ja so, dass Philippe ist ja eben auch flexibel, was unsere Offensive betrifft. Wie er gerade selber gesagt hat, er ist in Liverpool auch von der linken Seite gekommen, ist da wirklich großer Spieler geworden unter Klopp, aber auch dann in Barcelona hat er das auch ausgeführt. Oft natürlich auch kommend aus der Mitte, wie er das natürlich in der Nationalmannschaft gemacht hat. Wer Copa America geschaut hat, hat man gesehen, dass das, wie er selber sagt, eine Position ist, wo er einfach seine Kreativität, die er einfach lebt, vorzeigen kann, und das ist wichtig für unsere Mannschaft. Natürlich haben wir auch andere Spieler in der Mannschaft, aber er erhöht das alles mit seinem ersten Spieler, der eben mal durchstecken kann, der mal einen Chip spielen kann, und das, was ganz wichtig ist, dass er unsere Spitzen, unsere Außenspieler, Lever, klar, dass er die einsetzen kann, und das wird er sicher tun. selber ist er oben, also drauf, ist er auch torgefährlich, was unserer Mannschaft nochmal Flexibilität verleiht, sage ich mal. Und ja, das alles zusammen mit der Nummer 10 natürlich hat eine große Bedeutung für unsere Mannschaft, für unseren Club.
So, wir haben noch 4 Fragen, bitte. Einmal in der Mitte gleich.
Daniel Mücksch vom Münchner Merkur. Ich habe eine Frage an Herrn Rummenigge und Herrn Salihamidzic. Die letzten Tage gab es unterschiedliche Interpretationen, was die weiteren Transferaktivitäten angeht. Sind Ihre Transferplanungen damit abgeschlossen mit dem Transfer und dem morgigen Transfer, der vorgestellt wird, oder ist mit weiteren Transfers zu rechnen?
Der Transfermarkt läuft bis zum 2. September. Der FC Bayern wird sich ja immer alle Optionen offen lassen, solange die Transfermarktperiode eben da ist. Aber wir haben, wie Karl-Heinz Rummenigge gesagt hat, mit den Spielern, die wir verpflichtet haben, auch in der Qualität, aber auch in der Breite einen sehr guten Kader gewonnen, und damit kann man arbeiten. Ich glaube, dass wir jetzt eine große Aufgabe haben, zusammen mit unserem Trainer, den Trainer zu unterstützen, um diesen Kader eben dahin zu führen, um unsere Ziele, die eben hochgesteckt sind, zu erreichen.
Alles gesagt. Dann Georg Holzner, bitte.
Ja, ich habe 2 Fragen. Einmal an Philippe. Hast du dich im Vorfeld dieses Transfers auch mit irgendwelchen Spielern unterhalten, die sich beim FC Bayern auskennen? Hast du dich über diesen Verein auch irgendwo anders noch erkundigt? Und dann die zweite Frage an Herrn Rummenigge und Herrn Salihamidzic. Gab es in diesem Sommer auch die Möglichkeit, oder jetzt die Möglichkeit, Philippe Coutinho direkt zu kaufen, oder wollte das vielleicht auch Barcelona nicht, oder haben Sie gesagt, dass man mit der Leihe sich auch vielleicht noch Türen offen hält für nächsten Sommer?
Sim, primeiramente o projeto apresentado, né, com bastante ambição por parte do clube e claro, eu também sou uma pessoa ambiciosa, quero conquistar, poder ganhar coisas importantes e também falei com algumas pessoas, sim, falei bastante com o Thiago, que é brasileiro, fala português e para mim foi mais fácil. Falei também com o Rafinha, que esteve aqui, já ouvi muitas coisas boas também do Lúcio, que passou por aqui, então com certeza me ajudaram bastante nessa nova mudança.
Ja, zu den Gesprächen mit Barcelona kann ich eigentlich nur sagen, dass das am Ende des Tages das Resultat war, was wir eben vorgestellt haben. Beide Clubs haben sich eben auf dieses Leihgeschäft von einem Jahr verständigt, und darüber hinaus haben wir bis zu einem gewissen Datum eine einseitige Kaufoption, die nicht preiswert ist. Aber wie gesagt, wir werden das alles in Ruhe mit Philippe abwarten. Wir sind überzeugt, dass wir mit ihm einen tollen Spieler zum FC Bayern geholt haben, und ich schließe nicht aus, dass das auch eine langjährige Partnerschaft werden kann.
Dann ganz oben in der Mitte, vorletzte Frage bitte.
Ja, servus Philippe. Wir kennen Sie noch nicht so gut wie die Barcelona- oder Liverpool-Fans. Vielleicht können Sie ein bisschen erzählen, was ist Philippe Coutinho für ein Typ? Was ist Ihnen auch außerhalb des Platzes wichtig?
Olha, nunca gostei de falar sobre mim, né? Eu prefiro que as pessoas vão me conhecendo no dia a dia. Mas eu sou um cara trabalhador, ambicioso. Com certeza, a partir desse momento que estou vestindo a camisa do Bayern, vou dar o meu máximo para poder contribuir dentro do campo, ajudar meus companheiros a chegar aos nossos objetivos e no vestiário também, claro. A gente sabe que fiquei sabendo que o vestiário é muito bom, muito positivo e com certeza eu vou fazer o meu melhor para tentar contribuir de forma positiva.
Dann Manuel Bunke noch bitte zum Schluss.
Philipp, zum Abschluss, wir haben gehört, du bekommst die Nummer 10 von Arjen Robben, du sollst für Spektakuläre im Bayern-Spiel sorgen. Wie gehst du mit diesem Druck um? Ist der Druck etwas, das dich zusätzlich motiviert? Ist es vielleicht, was dich vielleicht hemmt? Wie gehst du damit um mit dieser Situation?
É uma responsabilidade grande, né? Vestir primeiro essa camisa do Bayern, né? Com tanta história e, claro, vestir esse número que era do Robin, que eu sei que é um grande ídolo no futebol mundial, um ídolo para mim também foi. Então, eu sei da responsabilidade, mas eu espero poder trabalhar tranquilo e responder com um bom futebol dentro de campo, todas essas expectativas por parte do clube e por parte da torcida também.
Tja, dann vielen Dank. Nummer 10, Robben, Trikot, das ist ein gutes Stichwort. Dann gibt es jetzt das obligatorische Foto mit dem Trikot, nämlich das Herr Rummenigge und Herr Salihamidzic mitgebracht haben. Die Nummer 10 für unsere Neuverpflichtung. Das ist höher halten, höher halten. Also vielen Dank, kurze Pause. Gleich wird Philippe auch noch draußen auf dem Rasen für Motive zur Verfügung stehen. Kurz durchschnaufen, rausgehen, aufbauen und dann sehen wir uns wieder. Danke.
Good afternoon. We'll get started in a couple minutes if you want to take a seat.
All right.
Okay, welcome everyone. Hello. My name is Jennifer Jacquet, and I'm an environmental scientist and professor at New York University. I'm also an editor at Science Advances, the journal, and we actually put together a special collection on the science related to the high seas that we distributed here at the same meeting last year. So we've been working on issues in science related to the high seas. It's an honor to be here today in the headquarters of the United Nations, the physical manifestation of a global dream for world peace, whose purpose includes achieving international cooperation to solve international problems. What an honor also for us to be part of an effort to protect the high seas, which most of us will never visit, but where billfishes, baleen whales, bioluminescence, and the great abyss captures our collective imaginations. Finally, what an honor for me to support Greenpeace's efforts, not just to promote science-based knowledge and an ambitious global ocean treaty, but also to engage and amplify civil society and prominent voices like Javier Bardem in protecting the high seas. The high seas and the seafloor underneath are areas beyond national jurisdiction. They are our global commons. They belong to nobody, but must be cared for by all of us. These waters are 1.5 times the total land area on the planet, and they represent the majority of the oceans. They play a critical role in regulating climate and biogeochemical cycles. The high seas and the deep seas are some of the most remote, quietest, darkest areas on Earth, where strange creatures have remarkably figured out how to eke out a living, even in very low energy environments. But the din of the industrial age has reached even these remote, once quiet waters. Fisheries catches from the high seas have doubled since 1982, when the high seas were officially established. There are already 16 existing exploration contracts to assess mining opportunities in the Clarion-Clipperton zone in the high seas between Mexico and Hawaii. We've all heard about the problem of ocean plastics by now, and yet less than 1% of the high seas is currently under strong protection. We know the problems and the pressure will only increase. There are many different existing institutions out there in charge of managing the high seas, including regional fisheries management organizations or the International Seabed Authority. Some say these are enough. They are not. Numerous scientific studies have pointed out their failings across several different dimensions. We need a new, ambitious treaty that can adequately address the current threats and anticipate new impacts. Protecting the high seas with a strong treaty is within your reach, and it's one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetimes. Please act not only on behalf of your nations, but also as citizens of this planet, and protect the global ocean for the benefit of all of life on Earth. Our panel today includes Sandra Schottner, who will explain Greenpeace's global campaign for high seas protection and a strong global ocean treaty. Next, Javier Bardem, who some of you may have heard of, talks about his experience in the Antarctic, and we will watch the trailer for his new film, Sanctuary, which I like to think of as No Ocean for Old Men. And Sophia Senikli will provide some nuts and bolts on what a strong global ocean treaty means in terms of treaty text. Finally, Farah Obaidullah will talk about why an ambitious treaty is critical for all of us. Sandra, please take it away.
Thank you, Jennifer, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's also an honor for me to be here today and giving you a little glimpse into Greenpeace's global Protect the Oceans campaign. We all know, and maybe we don't know enough, that oceans are the lifeblood of our planet. They make it habitable by producing at least half of the oxygen that we breathe and that are in our atmosphere. And they regulate the climate. They provide food and livelihoods for many million people. And what's even more, they make the largest living space on Earth and are thus home to an amazingly diverse wildlife, from the sunlit surface to the darkest depths. In short, our oceans are crucial to all life on this planet, and that's even more true in a changing climate. But they're increasingly under pressure from cumulative impacts of human activities. From climate change to ocean acidification, overfishing, destructive fishing, pollution, oil drilling, gas drilling, and the emerging new threat, deep seabed mining, our oceans are under threat like never before. As a consequence, habitat is damaged or destroyed, ecosystem resilience weakened, and marine species go extinct at a staggering rate. Especially the speed at which the high seas have been depleted, some of their most spectacular and iconic wildlife, has taken the world by surprise. And it has revealed a broken governance system that must be urgently fixed. Now, we have no time to waste. Because the science is clear, if we want to secure healthy, abundant, and resilient oceans and avoid an irreversible ocean crisis in the near future, we need to protect at least 30% of our global oceans by 2030. In 2016, the IUCN adopted a motion urging governments to act for this conservation target. And we as Greenpeace are calling on world leaders and decision makers to back this target, because only a global network of ocean sanctuaries will help save species from extinction and support their survival in our fast-changing world. So what does this mean in practice? The report 30 by 30, a blueprint for ocean protection, which was part of a side event we hosted during IGC2, is a result of a year-long collaboration between leading academics at the universities of Oxford and York and Greenpeace. And it shows what such robust, planet-wide network of ocean sanctuaries could look like. It wouldn't just consist of lines drawn up on a map, but it would represent a coherent, interconnected web of protection encompassing wildlife hotspots, migration corridors, and critically endangered ecosystems. If implemented, it would safeguard the full spectrum of marine life and help tackle the future ocean crisis. But what's pretty evident if we're looking at this map is that ocean protection in this way would need to be rolled out across international waters, something that is not possible to achieve just with the current set of rules and tools given to governance. That's why we need a strong global ocean treaty, and a global network of ocean sanctuaries is only possible with a global legally binding mechanism in place to create them. So the treaty must really provide governance with effective tools and rules to propose and establish fully protected marine areas on the high seas. What this means in some more detail, we will learn from Sophia in a moment. But the point is, and that is really important, that crafting such a global masterpiece requires not only technical expertise and political skill, above all, it requires political will, fueled by public mandate from people around the world, from pole to pole. Yet, how can something so far and out of reach as the high seas feature prominently in people's hearts and minds? So this is a question that we've been asking ourselves numerous times for months and even years. And it kept us busy for quite a while until we realized that it's indeed the phrase "from pole to pole" which holds the key to showing people what it needs to protect our oceans. So we decided to send our ships, the Esperanza and the Arctic Sunrise, joined by scientists, artists, journalists, activists, of course, and especially ocean ambassadors, on a year-long expedition from pole to pole in order to document the beauty and importance of our global oceans and the high seas, and also to expose some of the most imminent threats. So these are our two ships. Just as one of the starting pictures, these were shot in the Arctic. So we want to show the threats, and we want to show the importance of the high seas, and we want to spotlight key areas on the high seas that could and should be protected. Having started in spring this year, in April in the Arctic, the expedition now follows the Atlantic Ocean from north to south, ending in spring next year in the Antarctic. And when I say we've been starting this tour in the Arctic, it's not quite the truth. Actually, I don't know how many of you remember, already in 2018, we've been starting with a campaign in the Antarctic, campaigning strongly for the protection of the Weddell Sea. So far, in this tour, only after 4 months, more than 1.7 million people have joined us and voiced their support for a strong global ocean treaty and a protection of our high seas and our oceans of at least 30% by 2030. The first leg of this expedition took us to the Arctic ice edge, where we focused on climate change and to some degree on overfishing, destructive fishing, and plastic pollution. And together with scientists, we researched the correlation between melting sea ice and its effects on ecosystems and biodiversity in the Arctic Ocean. And it's become very clear that with more and more Arctic ice and glaciers melting away, untouched and fragile areas will become exposed to exploitation. During the second leg of the expedition, in May, June, we put a spotlight on one of the most serious emerging threats facing marine life on the high seas, deep seabed mining, by introducing one of the major deep sea battlegrounds, Lost City, a unique underwater ecosystem on the mid-Atlantic ridge, home to all kinds of unique marine life. The third leg of the expedition was dedicated to the unique floating forests of the Sargasso Sea, home to lots of small fish and marine life, such as young eels, and a vital refuge for newly hatched sea turtles. Here we highlighted the increasing plague of plastic pollution responsible for entangling and trapping all kinds of animals. Currently, our ship is in transit to its next and fourth expedition leg, to so-called Amazonian Orinoco influence zone, including areas beyond national jurisdiction. As migratory corridor for various fish and whale species, nesting sites for dolphins, turtles, and manatees, it also includes the enigmatic Amazon reef, which sadly has become one of the last big frontiers for oil drilling. The fifth leg of the expedition will soon lead our ship Arctic Sunrise to a biodiversity hotspot close to the southwestern South African coast. It's the seamount Vima, already plundered for decades and trashed by historic destructive fishing practices. Fishing gear still litters this important habitat, and despite local protection as vulnerable marine ecosystem, industrial fishing vessels are still active in this area. Harmful fishing techniques by distant water fishing fleets that deplete marine wildlife will also be the core of our sixth expedition leg to the southwest Atlantic. And finally, our seventh leg of this expedition will lead us back to Antarctic waters that we as Greenpeace have a long history with, home to iconic penguins, colossal squid, and most of the world's great whales. This is a spectacular and unique place and environment that happens to be at the forefront of the impacts of climate change and growing demand for industrial-scale fishing. And part of our expedition to the Antarctic last year in our campaign was a special crew member we had on board. His name was Javier Bardem. And he blended in very beautifully and nicely with the Greenpeace team, with everyone on board. And as far as I remember, Javier, you had some really special experiences.
Yes, I did.
On land, on the water, even underwater at the seabed. But I'm not going to give away too much, and I'm gladly handing over to Javier to share with us his experiences and insights and emotions about the Antarctic and the fight for a sanctuary in the Weddell Sea.
Thank you, Sandra. Hello, everyone. Hola, todo el mundo. Bonjour, bon dia. That's it. I don't know more languages, but I know that you all understand. On a personal level, I have to say that I'm very new in this matter of being in the United Nations, but I see way too many empty chairs here, which worries me a lot, just on a personal note, because what we're treating here is a must. It's a must. It's not something that we just think is important. It's a must for us and our generations to come to be living in this beautiful world. That's something that I just want to say up front. Now I'm going to explain to you what happened to me when I was in the Arctic Sunrise expedition last year. I feel incredibly lucky to have visited our planet's frozen frontiers. And last year I joined a Greenpeace expedition to the Antarctic to research the state of our oceans and bring the incredible diversity of life I saw closer to people who may never get a chance to see it. I saw penguins, which is my favorite animal, by the way, plunging into the water. I saw the ice shining in countless tones of white and blue, a world of wonders and majestic whales, really breathtaking. And with scientists, I squeezed, and Mr. John present here, into a tiny submarine to go down to the depths of the oceans, where few humans had been before. So I felt literally embraced by nature. And that's why I was so deeply frustrated to see that member states of the Convention for the Protection of Antarctic Marine Life, what you call CAMELAR, threw away a huge opportunity to safeguard the Antarctic Ocean by failing to create a vast protected area. And despite scientific evidence here present, a few countries can block protection to safeguard their short-term economic interests. And this is a microcosm of the broken system we currently live in. And I urge you, dear United Nations delegates, not to make this mistake again. We are all surrounded by the ocean on this blue planet of ours, even if, like in this room right now, we sometimes feel far away from it. And maybe that's why that many threats we're facing, that the many threats facing our oceans feel so distant from our hearts. And they are plastic pollution, overfishing, mining, drilling, ocean acidification, and of course, climate breakdown. But the truth is, our oceans are under more pressure than any other time in history. That's a fact. And we are at crossroads. All of you in this room are standing at a crossroad. And you bear a huge responsibility, huge, individually and collectively, to take us down the right path. And I can't help but feel that we, as living creatures on this precious planet of ours, are taking a very dangerous track. You don't need to be an expert. I'm not. I'm just a citizen. But you don't need to be an expert to understand what's going on. All you have to do is listen to the people that know, scientists, and to the many signs that nature is sending us constantly, day after day. Our oceans are on the verge of collapse, and we have all played a huge role in this. Now we must all play our part to stop it, especially you in this room. And I now would like you to please take a look at the t-shirt of the documentary called Sanctuary that we have made and we are opening this year, that explains a little bit of the experience of the Antarctic trip to the Antarctic. The Antarctic Ocean is one of the last virgin expanses on the planet, an ocean full of life, essential for the well-being of our planet and our survival as a species. This is the inside story of a mission that has brought together people from all over the world to put pressure on governments from 26 nations to create the largest marine sanctuary in the Antarctic. We have 8 months to gather 1.8 million signatures.
We know that if we are going to change politics, we need to create noise.
Amigos, nos vamos de embajadores de Greenpeace a documentar y testificar la belleza de uno de los lugares más increíbles del planeta.
Creo en la importancia de conservar los océanos y para mí es un privilegio el poder estar aquí y servir como comunicador de lo que estoy viendo.
Do you really have to shoot this?
Oh, I can kill it!
Now there's just constant tourism traffic.
Estamos en este sitio y aparece otro barco. Esto es como Santa Pola.
There's real urgency in protecting Antarctic waters because they're under threat from expanding fisheries, particularly krill.
Without krill, everything breaks down. A sanctuary would prevent corporations from depriving penguins, birds, and whales of this essential sustenance. We can try to do our part to prevent it. Esto es el cacharro de ahí. Eso parece de un huevo Kinder. How long am I going to stay down there?
How long would you like to stay down there?
5 minutes?
It will take you 20 minutes to get there.
Don't touch anything, especially the red bark. Lo
pensaba que en un sitio así hubiese tanta vida debajo de estas aguas.
Debemos ser testigos de esto para protegerlo.
Celebrities like Javier Bardem reach people that I never could. I think a lot of people are not going to be very interested in what I have to say, but if Javier speaks, I think they may pay a little bit more attention.
I have to be optimistic, yes. I couldn't do this for 30 years thinking there's no end to it. If the people wake up and realize what we have to lose, they might get away from their screens for a while.
It's just a matter of will by decision makers and especially by politicians.
Si conseguimos millones de firmas, sí tienen un peso, sí funcionan. Es así, es que estas cosas funcionan.
You're going to be sitting on the biggest dirty pile there was. You might have lots of money, but you can't eat money.
Politicians listen to people. We think that they don't, but we know that they do.
I have witnessed the wonders of the last virgin continent on the planet. Now, we face our final challenge.
Well, I want to tell you something that you may not know. Without oceans, the Earth would simply not function. And it is you, the delegates here and now, who are charged with this sacred responsibility. You are at a crossroads. You have a historic opportunity to turn the tide, not just for the high seas and marine life, but for the planet as a whole, for the millions of people who depend on healthy oceans to survive, and for our children and future generations who we pass this planet on to. I am just one of many that want this to happen, and there is a growing global movement of millions of people outside this room demanding the protection of our oceans, and the whales and turtles and penguins and other incredible life to which they are home. The world is watching as you negotiate this treaty. And this time we just cannot afford to get it wrong. I came here to do my part, and I'm humbly asking you to do yours by committing to a strong treaty we can be proud of, one that can actually create safe havens for marine life to recover. The oceans belong to us all, but their fate is now in your hands. The instinct to protect is one of humanity's noblest traits. Please embody this principle, and please protect our oceans. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier, for this inspiring call for action. I now have the tough job of taking us from that beauty, deep diving into treaty text. So I will be talking a little bit about what a strong global ocean treaty means in terms of specifically looking into the draft text on marine protected areas. For those of you who are new to the process, just a very quick recap. In 2015, after about 10 years of deliberations, governments finally agreed to develop an agreement under the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas for the conservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. And the reason, the big problem that triggered that decision that took so long was, if we go to the next slide, please. Previous slide. Was exactly this huge gap that we see in our global oceans in terms of protection. Currently, about 1% of these areas enjoy protection through regional agreements. The past generations before us made sure that there are rules and processes and agreements to regulate and organize fishing, mining, shipping, but none of these agreements, anything that exists today can offer the comprehensive protection that the oceans actually need. So just like Javier said, we're here and now in a situation where this generation can change that. Next slide. We need to come together and agree a strong global ocean treaty that can deliver the transformative change we know is needed for ourselves and for our children. So let's look at what that means in terms of text. Next slide. So we're setting a solid foundation for protection for decades to come. So we're starting from the beginning, from the definition. What is a marine protected area? Marine protected areas need to include the full range of the different types of areas. So for us, in particular, fully protected marine reserves must be part of the definition. Governments more and more now support the call for at least 30% of protected areas by 2030, and this treaty needs to be able to deliver that goal. To that end, we need to see activities specifically being able to be prohibited, not only managed. And we're calling for the establishment of MPAs, and not just the designation of them. In a recent guide that was published by UNEP, offers the different stages of establishment, and designation is one of them. So we would like to make sure that that's explicit in the text. And also, the last bit is about deleting the sustainable development part of the definition that exists today, as MPAs are actually conservation tools. Next. Objectives. It is important that the creation of a comprehensive network of marine protected areas becomes an explicit and primary objective for the treaty, and that there is a specific duty for state parties to cooperate to deliver that objective. Next slide. Greenpeace and the High Seas Alliance agree strongly that there must be a solid institutional foundation to ensure that the treaty can deliver the change that we want to see on the water. So we're supporting a conference of parties to be the main decision-making for the treaty, as well as the establishment of a scientific and technical committee, and a compliance and implementation committee, and a dedicated secretariat. Therefore, for MPAs in particular, we want to see the Conference of Parties having the power to establish protected areas, and importantly, this is really, really critical, at the same time adopt conservation and management measures that can meet the objective of the MPA. This is, in our view, critical, and it's the only way to ensure that the treaty can deliver fully protected areas and avoid creating paper parks. Anything short of this ambition, especially options that are putting on the table stripping the treaty from powers to adopt conservation measures, will only enhance the fragmentation that we see today in ocean governance and perpetuate the status quo that has brought us to this ocean crisis. Next slide. And finally, we strongly support a majority voting decision-making procedure, and it's crucial that the treaty includes such procedure that is an action-oriented process, so that through a majority voting we can actually deliver the change that we want to see. The urgency of the ocean crisis demands nothing less. Next slide. So these were some of the key recommendations in terms of text that we would like to see in the next few weeks being put into on the table for discussion. The time has come for this third session for governments to raise the ambition and move from words into really putting them into action through strong treaty text. We have ocean history in the making here. So thank you all for your attention, and please, in the next 2 weeks, don't hesitate to come to the Greenpeace team and the High Seas Alliance team for any further input into recommendations for the text. And you have already received briefings in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you to Greenpeace for organizing this event and asking me to say a few words. I run a platform called Women for Oceans. We are a non-profit organization that promotes diversity and inclusion in the ocean sector to deliver positive outcomes for the ocean. Why? Because diversity fosters innovation. Specifically, Women for Oceans connects and promotes the work of women around the world that are active in the ocean space. There are currently over 2,000 women from around the world in our network, women from all walks of life, including marine biologists, policymakers, fisherwomen, and concerned citizens. We have a database where you can search women by key search term, city, country, and name. We want to make sure that whatever decisions are made about the ocean, be they at the local level or on the global stage, like here, the feminine and often underrepresented perspectives are not just heard, but incorporated into the way we manage our oceans going forward. We all know why we're here. It is 2019, and we still lack a comprehensive framework that protects the integrity of our life support system of almost half our planet, the high seas. So it is a wonderful thing that we are here to finally discuss the nuts and bolts of what such a treaty should look like. In my line of advocating for healthy oceans, I often get asked two questions. One, why it matters that our seas and oceans are healthy, and two, what can we do to turn things around? As technical as we all are in our respective lines of work, particularly here at the United Nations, it is important that we stop and think about these two questions. Each one of us sees the value of our oceans differently. What is important to me about the ocean is different to you. But one thing is common. We all want and need healthy oceans, whether it is to stabilize our climate, feed our family, or simply to enjoy. We've already heard it on the panel today. We know that climate change, overfishing, pollution, and industrial activities, including the threat of deep sea mining, the emerging threat of deep sea mining, is severely impacting the health of our ocean. Climate change is causing our seas to warm, acidify, and reduce the oxygen content of the sea. And this is all having untold consequences on life in the ocean, with cascading effects on people, particularly vulnerable coastal communities as well as ecosystems. It is causing fish stocks to migrate, corals to bleach, and inhibiting, for example, the growth of shellfish. By the UN's own estimates, close to 90% of all fisheries are either fully or overfished. And then there's pollution. 8 million tons of plastic enters our ocean and therefore our food chain each year. And all of this translates into a very bleak future for the ocean. We need to stop thinking about the ocean in terms of economic gains. The oceans literally give us life. Over half the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean. The ocean regulates our climate, provides us with food, jobs, recreation, and peace. Over 4 billion people around the world eat seafood as part of their protein intake, and around 1 billion of us rely on fish as our primary source of protein. Most of us live within 100 kilometers of the coast. So what happens in the ocean matters to all of us. Not to mention the fact that we share this planet with other life forms, and it is our moral imperative to respect them. The high seas are what connect all our seas and oceans together. The fish we rely on in our coastal waters have often made their journey through the high seas, or they depend on animals and ecosystems that extend into the high seas. So how we manage our high seas affects the food security of so many of us, as well as the ocean's resilience to the onslaught of the climate crisis. To the second question about what it takes to turn the tide, we have to recognize that we are all in this together. And so addressing the issues successfully requires all of us. Through my work with Women for Oceans, and my many years working in different capacities for the ocean, it is becoming increasingly apparent to me that we need more equal and fair representation of voices at the table. The fact that it has taken so long to care about our global commons is, in my opinion, a result of allowing a very human-centric, often patriarchal and economically driven view of the world to determine how we manage our natural resources. We have failed to incorporate the diverse range of perspectives that consider the intrinsic and collective value of biodiversity on the high seas. Please think about this as you start these negotiations. Consider what you are doing to ensure that all our voices are heard, both within and between nations. Gender equality and equal representation across cultures and geographies is not just about being fair or doing the right thing. It's much more than that. It's about tapping into the full spectrum of our potential so we can chart a better course for humanity. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone here for their participation and their work. Javier Bardem, thank you for lending your weight and your spirit to this cause.
What do you mean by weight?
I was hoping that wouldn't be a touchy subject. And I really like that you say that this is not a choice, but a must.
Yeah.
It's obvious there's widespread support for an ambitious agreement, and that Greenpeace, as a representative of civil society, is here to help with those specifics regarding the treaty, but also to bear witness on behalf of the world to this process. We'd now like to open the floor for questions for any of the panelists. Thank you. Is anyone brave enough?
Sure.
What's the biggest mistake we could make in the next 2 weeks? The question is, what's the biggest mistake that we could make in the next 2 weeks? Javier, this is for you.
It's obvious. It all starts here by not being present. As I'm not an expert, I don't know anything about all of this except that I am a citizen and I walk around Madrid and it's hot as hell. And I go to the seacoast and I see how the sea is polluted. And I have 2 kids. They are 8 and 6, and I'm truly, deeply, honestly worried about the future we're going to give it to them. So it's not that I'm an environmental expert. I am just a citizen that I'm worried. So I guess the biggest mistake that you can do in the next 2 weeks is to not care as an emotional basis of the need of what it must be done. What it must be done, I don't know. The experts should say, but something must be done because I make movies. I haven't done any catastrophic movie, Hollywood big movie like the world collapse and all that. No, they haven't called me yet. I'm free, by the way, if there's any producer. They pay pretty well to do those things. But this is a real one. This is a real one, and we all starting it. And I'm afraid there is no Dwayne Johnson to save us. If we don't do something very important, which is like to create this, for example, this ocean treaty, so every country know how to behave in order to protect all the 30% at least of the oceans. That's my opinion.
Al Gore and Leonardo DiCaprio have been talking. And there is such their figure are changing a lot of things and impacting. How can you become part of that as well? How do you think you can help?
It's obvious that I'm way more handsome than Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, that's something you can see right here, right now. And I have more political influence than Al Gore altogether. So basically what can I do? Nothing, just being here representing people that don't have the chance to be here. But as a citizen point of view, as a person who doesn't understand all the greatness of detail that the experts here on this panel know, but that is worry. Yes, I make movies. I am known in some places. I'm not known in some others. I usually try to go to those places where I'm not known, so I can have some privacy. But yes, I try to raise the voice and to be the cause heard by people, because the people cared. When we did the documentary and that campaign, we raised 3 million signatures in less than 5 months. That's a lot of signatures of people supporting the cause of creating a sanctuary in the ocean, in the Antarctic Ocean. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but people were backing that need. So yes, I know by the people that surrounds me that we are all paying attention and we all care. It's not a fictionary thing that some other people may have to take responsibility for. Like, we all care and we all must do something together. That's why it's called United Nations, no ununited nations. So let's unite and let's do something for the sake of the oceans and for the sake of the generations to come. It sounds very simple, and it is. But as we know, then it comes economics, no? And then, but the problem is, how much are we able to sacrifice in the name of the microcosm of economics? How much are we able to, or willing to sacrifice? And I guess I let the answer to you, because you have to answer for all of us. But please ask somebody else, because I'm talking here way more than anybody here, and I am the one who knows the less.
I can give it a try, sure. I've been presenting it. This has been a keystone work that we actually started in 2006. Back then it's been called Roadmap to Recovery. And we thought it was about time after 12 years. So we started the process again in 2018 with all the new scientific data available and new environmental change coming about, to have a new study which resulted in the 30 by 30 report. So it's kind of the sequel. It's the Roadmap to Recovery report number 2.0. It's basically it's a model study based on several million data points from different kinds of environmental sciences, including climate sciences, trying to model what would be the scenario if we protect 30% of our oceans up to 50% of our oceans, not including coastal ecosystems. So this scientific team has been trying to stick to the high seas and model different variations and scenarios under the 30 and under the 50% scenario. Where would be the hotspots of biodiversity? Where would be the hotspots of protection, for instance? I mean, there's a number of criteria that went into that study. It's not only biodiversity hotspots, but biodiversity is, of course, one of the main factors, including many, many others. So if you want to know more, I'm happy to do that on a bilateral basis. And we have the study here in the room, so yeah, I don't know. We have the summary, we have the fold-out map, and we also have the full study, which is quite an extensive report laying out what a 30 by 30 model could look like and how it was to be implemented.
The live stream audience, I can repeat your question. The question is whether or not Javier has words for the Trump administration.
Why are you laughing? I think we all have words for the Trump administration, meaning you cannot withdraw from the Paris Climate Convention by any means. Like, this is serious, this is happening, this is now. So you cannot live in denial. There's nothing to deny, it's a fact. So basically, what I would like to say to them is, I guess, what we all like to say to them, which is, please pay attention to the surroundings, pay attention to how the nature is speaking to us constantly, how the heat waves are hitting Europe this summer, and how much plastic we can find while we are taking a nice walk on the beach anywhere. As I've been in some places this year, plastic was floating in everywhere. It's like, that's a fact. Nobody is making that up. So it's important that we all gather together and understand that this is for all of us. There is no one person in the world that will not be benefited, will not be, thank you very much, benefited by a climate convention or by an ocean treaty. I mean, we all are part of it. The rest is playing games in order to, I don't know, hide other different interests, economical interests. That's my opinion.
And perhaps to pivot back to the treaty negotiations, people have likened these negotiations to the Paris Agreement negotiations, and it's an interesting analogy. But I think something to remember here is that what is negotiated in this context and towards a treaty is not something that can be done the following year and improved every year thereafter. It is actually that we're negotiating here, or governments are negotiating here, a convention equivalent, that's what we would like to see, to the UNFCCC dealing with the big problem of climate change. In this case, we don't have an equivalent convention with a conference of parties coming together, identifying what the problems are for the ocean protection, identifying and adopting areas for protection. That doesn't exist. So what the governments are trying to do here is set up that foundation to then start actually protecting these areas. The map showed the level of the huge gap that exists. So we're filling that gap here. And going back to the question of what the biggest mistake could be, I think underestimating that the urgency and underestimating the opportunity that the people in every capacity, but most of all, of course, the delegates representing their governments here, the opportunity that they have in their hands to make history and create something strong that can offer protection for the oceans, for the planet, and for all of us.
Villains in this story. We're seeing sort of a rather dramatic decline in the ocean all around. In many ways, I think coming generation will ask themselves, how was it possible that we didn't do more?
Yeah.
What do you think needs to happen in terms of fighting villains?
Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert in villainy, I have to say. I mean, I've just played 3, but I guess we are all villains because we have done our part. I said this here. We have played deaf and blind many times, and we didn't care. And now it has come a moment where the experts, once again, say we must care now before it is too late. Again, the catastrophe, dramatic thing that sounds so terrific, but it may be true. It is true. And so I guess from now on, anyone who speaks bluntly or lightly about the matter is a villain, because it's obvious that it is a serious matter. I love that sound. That's the sea speaking. It came to say hi, you know? It's like the sound of the sea, no?
Question from the side row.
Yeah, I have a question for Farah. You talked about the importance about giving women a voice at these negotiations, and I heard from several of you it's not just about that, but also the voice of children, because it's not about us, it's about our children's and our children's children. How do we give them a voice here?
The question is how to give children more of a voice in this negotiation process.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, indeed, it's not just about women's perspectives in these negotiations. It's about all of our perspectives, the often underrepresented one, children, absolutely. You know, most of us, I think, again, coming back to the question of what's the biggest mistake, is if we do business as usual and think that, you know, things are not as bad as they are, and we're negotiating a treaty without the urgency, you know, that is the reality. How do we bring people's voices to the table? It's interesting because each country has a different, you know, political system, way in which we can speak up. I know I'm from the Netherlands, and I know that there is now you know, a discussion around creating a party for young people, political party for young people. We have a party for the animals even in the Netherlands. I know many countries might laugh at that, but it's actually, there are more animals than people in the Netherlands, and so we give them a voice. And that's the same for young people. We need to start taking them seriously because it is their future. We screwed it up. The generations before us have, you know, have created this mess. And you know, I was just deliberating on that the other day, that I grew up in a pretty carefree, you know, in pretty carefree years in the sort of in the West. But now, when I talk to young people, they are acutely aware of what's happening, and yet they're not the people sitting in this room negotiating this treaty. So I would urge governments to listen to what the young people have to say, offer them that, actively seek their input, actively seek what they want this treaty to look like, because we have a different view as to what's important. You know, the people following, let's say, the war or the generations before us, their priority was more about, you know, wealth, accumulating material possessions. But I think, and I can't speak for people younger than me, but from what I see, that is no longer a priority. It's about experience, it's about natural beauty, it's about love, it's about each other, it's about together and society and community. And I fear that a big mistake that could happen in these 2 weeks is if we don't incorporate that way of thinking into, you know, into this treaty text. This is not about economic wealth or gain. This is about our life support system, and young people know it, and many people that don't have a voice know it. So yes, thank you.
I can repeat your question.
Just it's less than a question and more a comment. I'm a fisheries biologist, and I have worked with fisheries throughout my entire life. And I've heard a statement that I have heard many times, and a statement that in my view is not accurate, and because it's not accurate, does not contribute to the cause. And I do understand, and I fully agree, we have many very urgent things about the conservation in the oceans, but when we say, for example, as I've heard, that 80% of the fish stocks are fully exploited or overexploited, we really give an idea or a view that the situation is very bad, but in fact, 60% of these 80% are fully exploited, are in a level that is sustainable, are kept at maximum sustainable yield. And I think it's very important to say that, to convey what is really happening out there and not to give an impression that things are much worse than they really are. And I think that's a very common mistake.
Thank you for your, I think the question was about what percentage of fish stocks are overexploited, and then which ones, what percentage are sustainable. So I'll actually field this one because I work on fisheries and global fisheries and high seas fisheries. So it should be, the FAO maintains a database, and that's the number from which this was derived, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations itself. For instance, all of this is, the high seas itself is a political construct. The idea of overexploitation is also a political construct. These are not pure science like gravity. This is an idea that we have put in our heads about what exploitation or overexploitation means. That means that it is subject to those same values that Farah just described. That the next generation may say, actually, all fish stocks are overexploited because you know what? We need to leave more in the ocean for the penguins that Javier cares about, for the seabirds, for the sea turtles. The idea that these have been ordained by science is absolutely false. the next generation may decide that 100% of fish stocks are overexploited, and that would be completely within their domain of scientific right to do so. Because if they took a broader ecosystem approach, if they decided that maximum sustainable yield was not just about a single species model. So the ways in which human values are baked into the science is really important to make explicit in all of this decision making. Any other questions about fisheries?
What point or position in the treaty do you think will garner the most like negative feedback from the community? Like, what position do you think you'll get the most disagreement on?
The question is about what may spark major disagreements in the treaty.
So looking again on marine protected areas specifically, which is sort of what we talked about, we're focusing on today. The key issue that takes up most of the conversation is how much power will move, let's say, from existing regional or sectoral agreements in terms of protecting taking measures within protected areas, and how much power will the treaty have to define the best mix of measures that will deliver the protection that the protected areas will actually need. So the conversation is really about a shift of power from the status quo to creating a new status quo, let's say, a new system, where identifying areas in our global oceans and protecting them is not only something that is done on paper, but something that actually is strengthened with protective measures that look at the cumulative effects of all the activities, the impact of climate change, acidification, and then the mix of measures are then determined within the treaty and the parties under the treaty.
Wrap up our time here today. Thank you very much for your attention, your participation, and your commitment to the future.
Thank you very much.